So, in the IELTS test, they judge your English language skills by, like I said, make you answer in English when they ask you questions in English. Make you listen to English audio and see if you understand that. Make you read texts in English to see if you understand that. And make you write in English for questions. So, those are the four tests that are taken in the IELTS test: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. Among those four tests, at this moment in the class, we are preparing for the reading test. Reading is reading a passage and searching for the answers that are questions which are asked. That is what we are doing right now. So learning how to read a text and how to find answers in the text. So I hope you can catch up. We just started 2 or 3 days ago, so you missed a couple of introduction classes. But don't worry, we will revise them again at the end. If I remember correctly, yesterday we learned about fill in the blanks questions in reading. And I told you that fill in the blanks questions come in separate types, different types. Some of them, the answers are given serially in the text, and for some, the answers may not be given serially in the text. Today, we will focus on those questions where the answers may not come serially in the text. So, to see an example of what I am talking about, why don't you go to IELTS 13, page number 23. Don't have a book. Look at IELTS 13, page number 23. On the bottom of the page, you will see a paragraph which has some blanks inside the paragraph. If you count, there are 3 blanks in the paragraph. So do you see that? Responses to boredom is the title of the paragraph. 23. If you see that. So if you ever get questions like this in the exam, you can say it is fill in the blanks, but the blanks aren't given as separate points but are part of a paragraph. In such kinds of questions, the answers may not come in a serial order. Remember this. Again, they may come in a serial order, but they may not come in a serial order as well. Why that matters is, if the answers don't come serially in the text, you don't know which you are going to find first. So there are 3 questions, 24, 25, and 26. You might find number 26 first in the text and 24 last. You don't know which you will find first. The difference is important because if the answers come serially, you just need to focus on one question at one time. Focus on number 24, wherever you find number 24, 25 will be below that. But since the answers don't come serially, if you only focus on one question, the part where the other questions are answered, you have to read those parts as well. You have to go over the text multiple times to find the same answer. So it is best to read all 3 questions before you start searching to understand the entire paragraph. So there are blanks in the paragraph. Without those blanks, we will not get the full meaning of the paragraph. But still, even with those blanks, what do we understand from the paragraph is what should be the first thing. Then when we search, we might find whichever we might find first in the text. So before we start doing it, first I want you to look at the heading of the passage. What is the passage about? It says why being bored is stimulating and useful too. You know, being bored, when you are bored, like let's say in the classroom, people get bored when somebody is teaching, maybe. While watching a movie, people might get bored, or even in meetings, maybe in social situations, while traveling. There are many times when we get bored. It says here, being bored is stimulating, which should be the opposite of being bored. Stimulation means reactions from your body, which means you are not bored. But it says being bored is stimulating. This is a paradox. It is just like saying how hot is cold or how cold is hot. Opposite things, which should not happen. So we don't know what the text is going to be about, but it is telling you about that when we are bored, we are not bored. I don't know. And it says it is useful too. So being bored is useful. Can you think of why it might be useful? Like if I am teaching in the class and you get bored, how can that be useful? Or if you go and watch a boring movie, how can that be useful? Now the text must explain that thing, but it says that. Now I have not read this text, but a separate text that I have read, I have once read a newspaper article about this. When people get bored, new thoughts come into their head. Like in the class, let's say I am teaching and you are bored. Being bored means you think of something else. You are not focusing on what I am saying, but thinking of something else. In that time, creative thoughts, new thoughts may emerge in our head. Might happen sometimes. Like, have you heard the story of how Newton came up with the theory of gravity? He was sitting under an apple tree, an apple fell down. Now think, when you see an apple falling down, how bored are you to think why does the apple fall down? You must be very, very bored to think that why does the apple fall down? Why doesn't the apple fall up? So bored people think of things like these, which normally don't come into our head. If he was not bored, he would have gotten and picked up the apple maybe. But when he is bored, he thinks of thoughts like those. Similarly, have you heard of the Archimedes principle? How did Archimedes came up with the principle of flotation? He was in his bathtub and he was floating in the bathtub and he thought, why am I floating? And he thought of the idea that maybe uh, objects displace water when they are on top of the water, and then he came up with the idea. Again, a normal person when taking a bath would have quickly taken the bath and went to the job or do something else, but a bored person thinks. So maybe new thoughts come into our head. Maybe, I don't know what the text talks about. So this text is about why being bored is useful to us. Anyway, let's look at the question now. It says responses to boredom. IELTS 13, page number 23. Responses to boredom. How do we respond when we get bored? Let me read the paragraph for you. For John Eastwood. Now, whoever this person is must be a researcher or a scientist, whoever the person is. The central feature of boredom is that people cannot something. Now, can you guess what it might be? People cannot focus, or maybe people cannot concentrate, people cannot pay attention, something like that. When you are bored, what happens? People cannot understand whatever the answer is that to that question due to a failure in what he calls the attention system. So our attention system fails. When we are bored, we cannot pay attention. So the first question is asking us, what cannot we do when we are bored? And as a result, they become frustrated and irritable. So boring is frustrating as well. His team suggests that those for whom something is an important aim in life. So whatever this aim in life is, that aim may have problems in coping with boredom. Coping means dealing. So if a boring situation arises, people will not be able to deal with that. People will become bored if they have this, whatever number 25 is, if they have that as their aim in life, then they will be bored. So that is not good for us, that aim in life. Whereas those who have the characteristic of, again, something else, can generally cope with it. So there are two kinds of people. People who can cope, means who can deal with a boring situation, and people who cannot deal with a boring situation. Now you might wonder, why should we deal with a boring situation? Why not just ignore that situation? But many things in life are boring. Like studying is boring for many people, but we have to study. Work is boring for many people, but we have to work. So there are two kinds of people. People who can cope, people who cannot cope. So these are the two questions number 25 and 26. One kind of people, number 25, people who cannot cope with boredom. And the other kind of people, number 26, are people who can cope with boredom. And number 24 is asking us about what cannot we do when we are bored. What does not happen is the question. So remember these three questions. The important thing in the exam is short-term memory should also be very important. If you forget the questions once you are searching for the answer, what might happen is when you are searching, you forget what you are searching for. So remember these three things. What cannot we do when we are bored is the first question. What kind of people become bored easily? Who cannot deal with boredom? The second question. The third is who can deal with boredom? Three questions are there. And the keyword, like I told you yesterday, each question tries to give you a hint where to search for the answer in the long text. Here, the name of the researcher is given. It says John Eastwood. And do you also see in the same question, in quotation mark, they have attention system. Quotation mark means somebody's quotation exactly. So wherever we find that quotation attention system and the name John Eastwood, maybe the answer is there. So in the text, let's search the name John Eastwood, and wherever we find the name John Eastwood, next to the name, let's search for attention system. Paragraph D. In paragraph D, the name John Eastwood is mentioned. Can you also see attention system? On the next page, second line. Okay, let me read that for you. It says, for Eastwood, the central feature of boredom is a failure to put our attention system into gear. Means our attention system does not work. So what happens? This causes an inability to focus on anything. So inability means you cannot focus. I guess that is what number 24's answer is. Look at number 24. People cannot something due to a failure in attention system. So must be focus, number 24. Okay, let's keep on reading. What's more, your efforts to improve the situation can end up making you feel worse. People try to connect with the world, and if they are not successful, there is that frustration and irritability, he says. Perhaps most worryingly, says Eastwood, repeatedly failing. Again, this paragraph doesn't answer the remaining two questions. Let's look at the next paragraph, paragraph E. So it says here, Eastwood's team is now trying to explore why it fails. It's early days, but they think that at least some of it comes down to personality. So, can we focus on things? Can we escape our boredom? Depends on our personality. I guess the questions are going to be answered here because what kind of personality should we have when we have to cope with boredom? Maybe it is mentioned. Let's read. Boredom proneness. Proneness means the risk of being bored. Has been linked with a variety of traits. Traits means characteristics. So there are different characteristics that make people bored. People who are motivated by pleasure seem to suffer particularly badly. So this line, people who are motivated by pleasure. Think, what does motivation mean? Means that thing is your aim that motivates you. So if pleasure motivates you, you will suffer badly from boredom. That is why I guess number 25, not motivation. Motivation means aim, pleasure. So for whom pleasure is an important aim may have problems coping with boredom because they suffer badly from it. That kind of personality. Think about that. Think what it means. If your only aim in life is pleasure, only having fun, you don't want to do anything else, just want to have fun. If that is your personality, then if anything that is not fun happens, you will become bored easily. So those kinds of people will suffer from boredom very badly. So if that is your aim in life, just having pleasure, just having fun, then boredom will always catch up to you. Things will become boring very easily to you. Now, what kind of people don't become bored? Let's keep on reading. Other personality traits, such as curiosity, are associated with a high boredom threshold. Threshold means limit, a high limit of suffering from boredom. For an example, if I say, how long can you hold your breath? And if I say my threshold is 1 minute, means that the limit is 1 minute. Somebody may have 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So there is bigger thresholds. So how much can you suffer from boredom depends on your curiosity. Curious people are not bored. The more curious you are, the less bored you become because the threshold increases. So that is why the last one, number 26, must be curiosity. The characteristic of curiosity can generally cope with it. means you can deal with it. So curious people will never become bored, because whatever is happening in front of them, they will always be curious about the situation. The thing is, I find it many times, not only you but all in the class, people are always trying to find the answer. My suggestion is try to understand the text, because why this helps you in tomorrow in your in your writing test or speaking test. When you are asked questions to write or to speak, you can use the same thing in your own speech. Let's say in speaking they ask you, what do you do when you are bored? Then you might answer in this way. You can say, according to John Eastwood, a scientist, he told that. You can say that, and think how better your answer will be if you include quotations like those. In writing, if questions are asked, many children become bored easily. What can we do to make them not bored? So again, according to Eastwood, curious people never become bored. So you can just write these things, understand that. Anyway, curiosity is the last question's answer. So I hope you got what we are doing. It is just like yesterday. Now here the questions came and the answers came serially in the text, but answers may not come serially in the text as well. And there's one more kind of question that we should deal right now with. I would like you to go to IELTS 13, page number 92. It is a similar kind of question, but options are given. Do you see that? Now, this might sometimes make it more difficult than the other kind of question, because last question that we did about boredom, whatever word we found, we wrote that word. But here, when we find a word, we have to see if the word is in the option. And many times, the word is not in the option, but a synonym of the word is in the option. Like you can see here the options. Number D says profits. Do you see that? In the text, you might never find the word profit, but the word gain may be in the text, or income may be in the text. So you have to see if a similar word is in the option. Like number F, it says communication. In the text, it could be something else like letter writing or maybe the telephone. It might not have the same word given in the options. And whatever word you find in the text, you have to search what best matches that word. And as an answer, you have to write the option number. Only A or B or C. Again, I see some of you are already doing it. If you are listening to what I am saying, some of you are not doing it. Look at the board. Look at me. Okay. Forget the question. Because have you thought of it? Who do you think is the best football player in the world? Does Messi play football every single day? Once a week. Only one time in a week. What does he do for the remaining 6 days? What do you think? Does he practice 90 minutes every day, play every match every single day, and become ready for the final day? One day he only practices free kick, maybe. One day only penalty kick. One day only dribbling. One day only one thing. Small steps, and you combine all of them on the final match day. Because if you play the best you can ever play on a training, what does it matter? You have to play best on the game, not in the training. So right now, if you find the answer or don't find it, what does it matter right now? Doesn't matter at all. Just the things that we have to keep in mind when we actually play the match. Focus on that. So like I was saying, why do you think I say that is, I have seen many people by mistake, if the answer is A measurement, people write A measurement or measurement. Only A is what you write in the answer. Now you might think it is very obvious, but many people make this mistake. You yourself might make the mistake next time you take the test. So if the answer is A or B, just write A or B. You might not find the word measurement in the text. Similarly, like I said, you might find a different word which means measurement. Anyway, before we do this, again, the strategy that you should always think of is, don't start reading the question. What is the text about? Think, Prepare your brain for that. Warm up first. Don't play the maths first. Look at the title of the text. What does the text say? It says book review. So somebody read a book and somebody wrote a review of the book. They read the book and they wrote what they felt by reading the book. What is the book name? The Happiness Industry, How the Government and Big Business Sold Us Well-Being. There's a book titled that. And the book is by William Davis. So it talks about the happiness industry. What do you think it means, the happiness industry? When we talk about, let's say, film industry, or when we say noodles industry, we think of one kind of business, I guess. What does happiness industry mean? I guess what it is saying is happiness is also a product that people are trying to sell us. Like, have you seen advertisements of things? An advertisement nowadays, most advertisements don't talk about the product at all. They just say how happy it will make the customer. Like the, let's say, a candy named, let's say, Choco Fun. It doesn't say that it will make you satisfied. It just said it is fun to do it. Like if there is an IELTS class, they might say, come to IELTS expert. It is a fun experience to study here. Things that are selling you fun. Or government also. Government might say, I will make you happy to the citizens so that people vote for the government. Anyway, happiness has become a product that is used in the market. Maybe not as well. Because when we go to the market, most people, they don't only want the product, they want the service as well. They want to feel good as well when you go to a thing. Because think of it again. If you are hungry, you can go to the footpath, you can buy biscuit and eat it. Why do people go to nice restaurants? They want to be happy as well. So happiness is itself a product that industry is selling. Maybe. Let's look at the text now. The question now. Before we start, have you heard of the PTE test? PTE is another test that you can take as a substitute for the IELTS test. You know, IELTS, PTE, TOEFL, the tests like these. Whichever test you take, it is all the same. They are all for the same purpose, to check your English language. And universities, they will accept all tests. So you can take any one of those three tests, IELTS, PTE or TOEFL. Except there are some universities will say, I will only take TOEFL or I will only take IELTS, but most universities take any one of these three tests. And in PTE test, if you have not seen the questions, in the reading section of the PTE test, reading questions are just like this. A text is given and options are given, but no passage. Passage is not given. Just from the options, you have to select the answer. So let's try to do that with this. Without reading the passage, can we find the answer just looking at the options or not? Now, sometimes maybe two options seem to match, but anyway, let's see. Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham was active in other areas besides philosophy. Means he was a philosopher and other things as well. In the 1790s, he suggested a type of technology to improve something for different government departments. What can it be? To improve what for government department? Maybe security. What else? Communication, maybe. I guess only those two options match. Security for government department or communication, maybe. Other things don't match. Okay, let's see. He developed a new way of printing banknotes to increase what? To increase profit, maybe. To increase security as well, maybe. Banknote means currency, maybe to increase security of the currency. Whatever it can be, measurement could also be the thing. Let's keep on reading. And also designed a method for the something of food. What can be the answer? Preservation, maybe. Because that is the only option that makes sense here. Preservation of food. What else can be the answer? He also drew up plans for a prison which allowed the something of prisoners. Security of prisoners, maybe. Observation, maybe. You have to observe the prisoners as well in a prison, maybe. At all times, and believed the same design could be used for other institutions as well. When researching happiness, he investigated possibilities for its test. What do we do with happiness? Now the options don't make it clear anyway, and suggested some methods of doing this. So these are the questions. Implementation, maybe. So these are the questions, and why I made you think of the possible answers is, now we have prepped our brain, like we are thinking of what might be the answer. And if we see something like that, that may be the answer, because we might not find the same words. A similar word will be found in the exam, sorry, in the text. That is why you have to prep, means prepare your brain for what might come. So the keyword here is the name Jeremy Bentham. Let's search his name in the text, Jeremy Bentham. Second paragraph, third paragraph. The date 1790s, because the question also gives us a date 1790s, and the date is mentioned in the third paragraph 1790s. Okay, let me read that part. In the 1790s, he wrote to the Home Office. Home Office means the Home Ministry, suggesting that the departments of government be linked together through a set of conversation tubes. He wanted to link them for conversation. So what might be the answer for number 230? Communication, because you want to link them for conversation, means improve communication. Okay, let's keep on reading. Uh, and to the Bank of England with a design for a printing device that could produce unforgeable banknotes. A printing device to produce unforgeable. Unforgeable means you cannot make the duplicate of that. To forge means to make a duplicate. Unforgeable means to not make duplicate of note, of currency. So jali na banaune, that's what it means. So that is, I guess, improve. 31, security for printing banknotes, because they will be unforgeable. You cannot make a copy of the original banknote. Let me keep on in the same line. He drew up plans for a frigidarium. Frigidarium means just freeze, refrigerator, to keep provisions such as meat, fish, fruit, and vegetables fresh. So you want to make the food fresh. That means preservation. Number 32 must be preservation of food, to keep meat and fish and fruits fresh. Let me keep on reading the line. His celebrated design for a prison to be known as the panopticon, in which prisoners would be kept in solitary confinement while being visible at all times to the guards. So guards can always watch the prisoners. They are visible to the guards. So must be observation. Yes. 33 must be observation of prisoners, because guards can always watch them. They will be visible to the guards. So what's one question remaining now? Davis. Now the next paragraph. If you see the next paragraph, Bentham was also a pioneer. Pioneer means someone who starts a field, the first person to do it. Of the science of happiness. If happiness is to be regarded as a science, it has to be measured. He wanted to measure happiness. So the last one must be measurement. 34 is number A, measurement. So just that. So I hope you get what we are trying to do here. Some questions come with options, some don't come with options. In any case, you should read all the questions first, the entire paragraph with which we are given, and search in the text one by one. But the most important thing is, before you search, think very hard what it is trying to tell you. Even with the blanks, we don't know what the blank is, but accept the blank. What is the text trying to tell you? Understand the message first, and then it becomes easier to search, in my opinion. Anyway, now I would like to see you do it by yourself. Why don't you go back in this book to page number 45. Oxytocin research, if you see the question there.